It started, as most ill-advised but potentially transformative experiments do, with a nagging sense of unease. A low hum of dissatisfaction that vibrated beneath the surface of my meticulously curated life. I had the job, the apartment, the carefully chosen friends, the weekend routines designed for maximum productivity and minimal existential dread. Yet the feeling persisted, a gnawing awareness that I was merely existing, not truly living. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was, by all objective measures, successful. I had achieved the milestones society deemed worthy of celebration. But somewhere along the way, I had lost touch with something essential. The relentless pursuit of more money, more recognition, more possessions, had left me feeling strangely empty, like a finely crafted vessel, beautiful to behold, but lacking any real substance within. This discontent, this quiet rebellion against the perceived emptiness of modern life, led me to Stoicism, not as an abstract philosophical concept, but as a practical framework for living, a way to navigate the complexities of the world with greater clarity, resilience, and inner peace. I devoured the writings of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, their words resonating with a surprising urgency. It wasn't just intellectual curiosity, it felt like a homecoming. The idea of living like Marcus Aurelius for 30 days wasn't a carefully planned endeavor. It wasn't born from meticulous research or a desire for online validation. It was a spontaneous decision, a desperate attempt to break free from the shackles of my own making, a leap of faith into the unknown, guided by the wisdom of the ancients. I knew it wouldn't be easy. My life was built on routines and habits that were antithetical to Stoic principles. The constant stream of notifications, the endless scroll through social media, the ingrained need for external validation, all of these would have to be confronted. It was a challenge, a personal quest to rediscover what truly mattered. The frugal aspect of this experiment stemmed from a parallel realization. My pursuit of material wealth had become a distraction, a way to avoid confronting deeper questions about my purpose and values. I had accumulated possessions that offered fleeting moments of pleasure, but ultimately failed to satisfy my yearning for something more meaningful. The idea of embracing frugality wasn't about deprivation, but about intentionality, about consciously choosing what I allowed into my life and rejecting the unnecessary clutter that weighed me down. So, I embarked on this journey, this 30-day immersion into the world of Stoicism and frugality. Armed with the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius and a commitment to simplifying my life, I set out to discover if these ancient principles could offer a path to greater fulfillment in the modern world. It was an experiment in self-discovery, a quest for inner peace, and a challenge to the prevailing norms of our consumer-driven society. And I had absolutely no idea what I was getting myself into. The initial days were a brutal awakening. Accustomed to the instant gratification of digital stimulation, I found myself wrestling with a profound sense of boredom. The urge to mindlessly scroll through social media, to check emails every few minutes, was almost unbearable. It felt like detoxing from a particularly addictive substance. I recognized, though, that this discomfort was precisely the point. It was an opportunity to confront my dependence on external validation and to cultivate a greater sense of self-sufficiency. To combat this, I turned to the practice of negative visualization, a Stoic exercise designed to cultivate gratitude and resilience. Instead of dwelling on what I lacked, I began to contemplate the potential loss of what I already possessed. I imagined losing my job, my health, my loved ones. It wasn't a morbid exercise, but a powerful reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of appreciating the present moment. This practice, while initially unsettling, fostered a profound sense of gratitude for the simple things I often took for granted. A warm bed, a healthy meal, the companionship of friends. Complementing this, I implemented a strict policy of digital minimalism. I deactivated social media accounts, unsubscribed from unnecessary email lists, and limited my screen time to essential tasks. The initial anxiety gradually subsided, replaced by a sense of calm and focus I hadn't experienced in years. I rediscovered the joy of reading, of spending time in nature, of engaging in meaningful conversations without the distraction of technology. This wasn't simply about reducing screen time, it was about reclaiming my attention and directing it towards activities that nourished my soul. On the financial side, frugality became an exercise in mindful consumption. I meticulously tracked my spending, identifying areas where I could cut back without sacrificing my well-being. I started cooking more meals at home, foregoing expensive takeout and restaurant dinners. I repaired clothes instead of buying new ones. I walked or biked instead of driving whenever possible. This wasn't about depriving myself, but about making conscious choices about how I spent my money. It was about aligning my spending with my values and prioritizing experiences over possessions. Furthermore, I discovered the power of delayed gratification. Instead of impulsively buying things I wanted, I made a conscious effort to wait. Often, the desire would simply fade away, revealing the superficiality of my initial craving. This practice strengthened my self-control and helped me to break free from the cycle of instant gratification that had dominated my life. The result was a significant reduction in my spending and a corresponding increase in my savings. But more importantly, it cultivated a sense of inner freedom and resilience. I no longer felt beholden to the constant pressure to acquire more. Now consider how this applies when you face a challenging situation at work. Instead of reacting impulsively with anger or frustration, take a moment to pause and reflect. Remind yourself that you cannot control the actions of others, but you can control your own response. Channel your energy into finding a constructive solution rather than dwelling on the negative aspects of the situation. This Stoic approach, applied consistently, can transform your relationships and enhance your overall well-being. It's a continuous process of self-improvement, a daily practice of cultivating virtue and wisdom. As I delved deeper into Stoicism, I encountered the concept of amor fati, a love of fate. Initially, this idea felt unsettling. How could one embrace the inevitable hardships and tragedies of life? How could one find joy in suffering? It seemed paradoxical, even masochistic. Yet as I grappled with this principle, I began to understand its profound wisdom. Amor fati wasn't about passively accepting whatever life threw my way. It was about actively embracing it, about transforming obstacles into opportunities, about finding meaning in adversity. To illustrate, consider a project at work that goes awry despite your best efforts. A less stoic approach might involve blaming external factors, dwelling on the injustice of the situation, or succumbing to self-pity. Amor fati, however, encourages a different response. It prompts you to accept the outcome, to learn from your mistakes, and to use the experience as a catalyst for growth. It's about reframing the situation, not as a setback, but as a valuable lesson. It's about recognizing that even in failure, there is an opportunity to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Expanding on this notion, I found myself drawn to the Stoic practice of focusing on what I could control and accepting what I could not. This simple yet profound distinction became a guiding principle in my daily life. I realized that much of my anxiety and stress stemmed from trying to control things that were inherently uncontrollable. The opinions of others, the unpredictable nature of the market, the whims of fate. By relinquishing this need for control, I freed myself from a tremendous burden. Conversely, I began to focus my energy on the things I could control: my thoughts, my actions, my reactions. I cultivated a greater awareness of my internal state, learning to identify and manage my emotions more effectively. When faced with a difficult situation, I would ask myself, what is within my power to change? If the answer was nothing, I would strive to accept the situation with equanimity. If the answer was something, I would focus my energy on taking constructive action. This approach, while not always easy, brought a sense of calm and clarity to my life. Another crucial layer to this transformation was the gradual shift in my perception of success. Previously, I had defined success in terms of external achievements, career advancement, financial wealth, social recognition. Stoicism, however, offered a different perspective. True success, it argued, lies not in the accumulation of external possessions, but in the cultivation of inner virtue. It lies in living a life of integrity, wisdom, courage, and justice. This realization was liberating. It freed me from the relentless pursuit of external validation and allowed me to focus on becoming a better person. It wasn't about achieving more, but about being more. The pursuit of tranquility, I discovered, wasn't a passive endeavor. It demanded active engagement with my own character flaws and a willingness to confront my weaknesses. Stoicism presented a mirror reflecting my imperfections with unflinching honesty. Pride, vanity, anger, fear. These were not abstract concepts, but tangible forces that shaped my thoughts and actions. Instead of suppressing these negative emotions, I learned to observe them with detached curiosity. I began to treat them as data points, providing valuable insights into my own psychology. When anger arose, for instance, I would resist the urge to lash out and instead examine the underlying cause. Was it a perceived injustice, a threat to my ego? By understanding the root of my anger, I could address it more effectively and prevent it from controlling my behavior. Likewise, I confronted my fear of failure. This fear had long held me back, preventing me from taking risks and pursuing my goals with unwavering conviction. I realized that failure was not an endpoint, but an inevitable part of the learning process. It was an opportunity to grow, to adapt, and to emerge stronger than before. By embracing failure as a valuable teacher, I liberated myself from its paralyzing grip. In parallel with this internal work, I cultivated a practice of mindful action. Every task, no matter how mundane, became an opportunity to exercise virtue. Washing dishes, answering emails, commuting to work. Each activity was approached with intention and focus. I strived to perform each task with excellence, not for external recognition, but for the satisfaction of knowing that I had done my best. This mindful approach transformed even the most tedious chores into opportunities for self-improvement. A key element of this transformation was the practice of journaling. Each evening, I would reflect on the day's events, examining my thoughts, actions, and emotions. I would identify areas where I had fallen short of my Stoic ideals and consider how I could improve in the future. This journaling practice provided a valuable feedback loop, allowing me to track my progress and identify patterns in my behavior. It was a form of self-therapy, a way to process my experiences and to cultivate greater self-awareness. Furthermore, I sought to cultivate empathy and compassion. I made a conscious effort to understand the perspectives of others, even those with whom I disagreed. I practiced active listening, paying close attention to what people were saying and trying to understand their underlying motivations. This practice of empathy fostered deeper connections with others and helped me to navigate interpersonal conflicts with greater skill. It reinforced the Stoic notion of interconnectedness, the understanding that we are all part of a larger community and that our actions have consequences for others. Consider, for instance, a situation where a colleague makes a mistake that impacts your work. Instead of reacting with anger or frustration, try to understand their perspective. Perhaps they are under pressure, dealing with personal challenges, or simply lacking the necessary skills. By approaching the situation with empathy, you can find a more constructive solution and strengthen your relationship with your colleague. Deeper into this experiment, the concept of externals versus internals took on a new dimension. It wasn't just about controlling reactions, but about redefining value itself, what constituted a good day. Previously, it was tied to achievements, closing a deal, receiving praise, ticking off items on a to-do list. These, I came to understand, were profoundly fragile foundations for contentment. One negative email could unravel an entire day's worth of perceived success. Accordingly, I began to measure my days by different metrics. Did I act with integrity even when it was difficult? Did I show kindness to others even when they were unkind to me? Did I face challenges with courage and resilience? These internal achievements became the new yardstick for a day well lived, and unlike external validation, they were impervious to the whims of fortune. A cancelled contract couldn't diminish the fact that I had approached the situation with honesty and professionalism. A harsh critique couldn't negate the compassion I had shown to a struggling colleague. In conjunction with this shift, I explored the Stoic concept of indifference, not as apathy, but as detachment from outcomes. It's a subtle but crucial distinction. It wasn't about ceasing to care, but about recognizing that some things are simply beyond our control. Consider the pursuit of a promotion. A Stoic might work diligently, honing their skills and seeking opportunities to excel. But they would also accept that the ultimate decision rests with others. Whether or not they receive the promotion is, in a sense, indifferent. Their worth is not contingent on external recognition. Their value lies in their character, their effort, and their commitment to excellence. Shifting focus, the practice of voluntary discomfort emerged as a potent tool for building resilience. Modern life is often characterized by an obsession with comfort and convenience. We insulate ourselves from even the slightest inconveniences, creating a fragile existence that is easily disrupted. To combat this, I began to deliberately introduce discomfort into my routine. Cold showers replaced warm ones, walks replaced car rides, fasting replaced indulgent meals. These small acts of voluntary discomfort served as a form of mental and physical training, preparing me to face larger challenges with greater equanimity. This principle extended to intellectual challenges as well. I sought out perspectives that challenged my own beliefs, engaging in respectful debates with those who held opposing views. This wasn't about winning arguments, but about expanding my understanding and cultivating intellectual humility. It was about recognizing the limits of my own knowledge and remaining open to new ideas. This practice, while sometimes uncomfortable, fostered a deeper appreciation for the complexities of the world and strengthened my ability to think critically. This approach can be useful in your dealings. For instance, imagine a situation where you have a strong disagreement with a coworker about a project's direction. Instead of immediately dismissing their ideas, take the time to truly understand their perspective. Ask clarifying questions, listen attentively, and try to identify the underlying assumptions that are driving their viewpoint. This empathetic approach can lead to a more productive collaboration and a stronger outcome for the project as a whole. The weave of Stoic practice tightens, a tapestry of virtue taking form. Where before, detachment served as a shield against emotional turmoil, now it morphs into a springboard for proactive engagement. No longer content with merely accepting the inevitable, the focus shifts towards maximizing influence within the circumscribed arena of personal agency. This isn't about chasing control, but about cultivating excellence in the execution of chosen actions. Take, for instance, a professional presentation. The Stoic doesn't obsess over audience reception, which remains fundamentally outside their grasp. Instead, they meticulously craft their message, rehearse diligently, and present with clarity and conviction. The outcome, while desired, is not the sole determinant of success. The The true measure lies in the integrity and effort invested in the process. Expanding on this notion, consider the realm of personal relationships. Stoicism advocates for reasoned discourse and empathetic listening, but it also acknowledges the limits of persuasion. One cannot force another to adopt a particular viewpoint or change their behavior. However, one can control their own contribution to the relationship. This means communicating honestly and respectfully, setting clear boundaries, and offering support without enabling destructive patterns. The focus shifts from attempting to manipulate the other person to cultivating a healthy and balanced dynamic, irrespective of their response. A further dimension unfolds in the realm of ambition. The Stoic doesn't shun aspiration, but rather reframes its purpose. Ambition isn't about accumulating accolades or achieving societal status. It's about striving to fulfill one's potential and contributing meaningfully to the world. This reoriented ambition is less susceptible to the corrosive effects of envy and competition. Success becomes a personal journey of self-improvement, rather than a zero-sum game where one person's gain necessitates another's loss. In a somewhat parallel vein, the concept of resilience evolves. It's no longer simply about bouncing back from adversity, but about transforming setbacks into opportunities for growth. This requires a proactive approach to learning from mistakes and adapting to changing circumstances. Consider a failed business venture. The Stoic doesn't wallow in self-pity or succumb to despair. Instead, they meticulously analyze what went wrong, identify areas for improvement, and use the experience as a foundation for future success. This transformative resilience is not about denying the pain of failure, but about extracting wisdom from it. Delving deeper into this, the acceptance of mortality assumes a central role. Not as a morbid preoccupation, but as a potent reminder of the preciousness of time and the importance of living each day with intention. This awareness fosters a sense of urgency, prompting a prioritization of values and a commitment to pursuing meaningful endeavors. The Stoic doesn't fear death, but rather uses its inevitability as a catalyst for living a more authentic and purposeful life. Ponder for a moment how this resonates when facing a seemingly insurmountable challenge. The recognition of life's finite nature can provide the impetus to persevere, to push beyond perceived limitations, and to make the most of the opportunities available. Reflecting on this journey so far, a distinct pattern emerges, not as a rigid framework, but as a fluid dance between intention and acceptance. It's akin to navigating a river. One can choose the direction of the boat, adjust the sails to harness the wind, and skillfully maneuver around obstacles. Yet the current itself remains an immutable force. The true art lies not in battling the river's flow, but in understanding its rhythms and leveraging its energy to reach the desired destination. This confluence of control and surrender, of striving and accepting, forms the bedrock of a resilient spirit. It is a recognition that while external circumstances may often be beyond our immediate influence, the internal landscape, our thoughts, emotions, and reactions, remains fertile ground for cultivation. This isn't about retreating into a fortress of stoic indifference, but about building an inner citadel of strength, a reservoir of equanimity that allows us to weather life's inevitable storms with grace and fortitude. Drawing these threads together, we see that the pursuit of virtue, the embrace of frugality, and the acceptance of fate are not isolated practices, but interconnected facets of a holistic philosophy. They represent a conscious effort to align our actions with our values, to simplify our lives, and to find meaning in the face of adversity. It's a continuous process of refinement, a lifelong journey of self-discovery that requires unwavering commitment and a willingness to confront our own limitations. In light of these insights, the path forward becomes clearer, not as a meticulously mapped route, but as a compass pointing towards true north. It's a call to embrace imperfection, to learn from our mistakes, and to continually strive towards becoming the best versions of ourselves. It's a recognition that true strength lies not in the absence of vulnerability, but in the courage to confront our fears and to live authentically, even in the face of uncertainty. As we pivot towards the final reflection, consider the cumulative effect of these principles. It is not about achieving some idealized state of perfection, but about cultivating a way of being that is grounded in wisdom, resilience, and compassion. It's about transforming the ordinary moments of everyday life into opportunities for growth and self-improvement. It's about finding peace not in the absence of challenges, but in the ability to navigate them with grace and equanimity. The destination, it seems, is not a fixed point, but a continuous unfolding. So, after those 30 days immersed in the spirit of Marcus Aurelius, what remains? It's not a checklist of habits adopted or a quantifiable increase in productivity, but something far more subtle and enduring. A recalibration of perspective. The world hasn't magically transformed, the challenges haven't vanished, and the frustrations of daily life still present themselves with relentless regularity. But the inner landscape, that arena where true battles are won or lost, has undergone a profound shift. The illusion of control, once a tightly held belief, has begun to loosen its grip. There's a newfound acceptance of the inherent chaos and unpredictability of existence, a recognition that striving for absolute certainty is a futile and ultimately self-defeating endeavor. This isn't resignation, but rather a liberation. By relinquishing the need to orchestrate every outcome, a space opens up for genuine engagement with the present moment, for appreciating the beauty and wonder that often lie hidden beneath the surface of our anxieties. And with this acceptance comes a heightened sense of responsibility, not for dictating external events, but for cultivating inner virtue. The focus shifts from accumulating possessions or achieving accolades to embodying qualities like integrity, compassion, and resilience. These become the true measures of success, the guiding principles that inform our actions and shape our character. It's a recognition that true wealth lies not in what we have, but in who we become. The frugal aspect, initially conceived as a means of simplifying life, has revealed itself to be something deeper, a conscious rejection of consumerism as a source of meaning. The desire for more, once a driving force, has been replaced by a quiet contentment with less. This isn't about deprivation, but about intentionality, about consciously choosing what we allow into our lives and rejecting the unnecessary clutter that distracts us from what truly matters. The invitation, then, isn't to blindly emulate Marcus Aurelius or to rigidly adhere to a set of Stoic principles. It's to embark on a personal journey of self-discovery, to explore these ancient teachings and adapt them to the unique circumstances of your own life. It's about cultivating a mindset that is both resilient and compassionate, both disciplined and adaptable. It's about finding peace not in the absence of challenges, but in the ability to navigate them with grace and wisdom. The true practice begins now, not as a grand gesture, but as a series of small, conscious choices made each and every day. It's about pausing before reacting, about choosing empathy over anger, about focusing on what you can control and accepting what you cannot. It's about recognizing the inherent value in every moment and living each day with intention and purpose. The world awaits, not as a battlefield to be conquered, but as a canvas upon which to paint a life of meaning and fulfillment. I want to thank you for making it this far and ask you to like and share this video with more people. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, do so now, and don't forget to activate the notification bell. Once again, thanks for watching the full video, and I'll see you in the next one. A big hug, and until then...